Hello, and welcome to She Rises, the podcast where women in leadership take center stage. I'm Tiffany-O, your host and the founder of Virtual Partner, where we champion humanity in the workplace to build thriving organizations. With over 30 years of experience in change management and servant leadership, I'm here to bring you powerful stories, actionable insights, and inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who are breaking barriers and redefining success. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, leading your own venture, or looking for that next level of impact, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to rise. Let's dive in. So I am so happy, Monica. You're very welcome. I was excited to do an intro for you. What people don't know who are listening is that Monica and I go way back to 2008, 2009, when I first launched Virtual Partner out of Columbus, Ohio. Monica used to be, now I look to her as a mentor, but she was someone that came to Virtual Partner and she was starting her marketing career. And so we put our minds together and I was able to support her and she was able to support me. And now as I look back and you look back in your time and you see that the time you spent with people was well spent because Monica is blowing it up, y'all. And she is still paying it forward to the next generation. So Monica, I'm just so proud of you. So proud of MoKasso. So tell us all, MoKasso, when you were doing the sports marketing with all those professional teams, you had your alter ego. Tell us about the evolution of Mo and McGee's now and sort of where that came from.
Wow. So let's first talk about the name because everybody wants to know what is it? Is it MoKasso, MoKasso, MoKasso? I don't know where people find the A, but it has so many variations. But it started with a very, very simple concept. So I love the Hollywood names when two people are dating and they put their names together, right? So I was like, you know what? Maybe my art name is a combination of something cool that I like. So my name's Monica. My favorite artist is Picasso. So I figured Mo and Casso makes MoKasso, right? So that was where that came from. But Mo, which is also a name that people call me for short for Monica, which is my name. O is also the state code for Missouri, which is known as the Show Me State.
Mm.
And I'm big on standing behind what I say, what I do, or as the new term is, standing on business. So
Ooh.
that's when I say Mo, that's what I mean. I
Mm.
stand on that.
I love it. I feel so inspired already just by the name. Okay,
Mhm.
so when we were connected early on, many years ago, Monica, you were doing marketing. You always had this creative side. You remember, Monica, when we stood up the blah, blah, blah blogging boot
Mhm.
camp, that first ever tech conference for women by women
Absolutely.
in Columbus? And I'll never forget being home having the chicken pox, and you and I were vibing on the phone about, asking the what if questions. And their
Mm.
creative side just showed, really came through. Boy, we stood that thing up so fast and got funding and got a couple hundred
Mm.
people in the room. It was amazing. So the shift from the techie Monica, the marketing Monica,
Mhm.
to the artsy Monica, what inspired you to pursue this career in visual arts and entrepreneurships? And then if there's a challenge you encountered along the way, we want to hear how you overcame that.
That's such a loaded question, and I'm going to answer that in a few parts.
Okay.
So, yes, there was a shift. I did more marketing and I was in the tech space with you. Thank you for acknowledging that. That was huge. Did sports reporting, editing for paper, being a writer. I've done all that. But rather than say it was a shift, let's just say it was more of a hodgepodge rebranding because I write my own marketing pieces for this. I handle the tech behind my business, promoting my brand still. I'm still a lover of sports. If you see some of my just commentary on my personal page, that's stuff that's never left me. But what I had to do was scale back to scale up.
Mm.
I scaled back to scale up because it wasn't that that wasn't for me, but I also knew that in that space, I needed to do some growing.
Mm.
And so some of that growth came from actually going back to school and getting my MBA. And once I got in there, I realized entrepreneurship was really the way. But it wasn't until after a couple years after I got my master's degree in 2015 that I realized that I had reached a point of being a what I call it success climber. So my goal was to hit a goal, but I got to the point where there was not another goal after the goal, and then I felt empty.
Mm,
Like, what else is there to do? You know, I was in a career doing the corporate America thing and whatever, but I was kept getting into situations where I was putting myself in a box where I was already at the ceiling when I started. And it
mm,
wasn't that it wasn't beyond my scope of where I could go, but I kept getting into dead end things that your space or what they need you for is not something that you're even necessarily going lateral. You're going to be right here.
mm,
And so there's a part of me that felt in that traditional setting that I was getting stuck. And when you have such an out of the box thing, it's hard for somebody to put you in there with pressure.
mm.
Imagine buying something like a mattress or a mattress pad, and it comes to you in a sealed Ziploc thing. If you decide you don't want it or you want to put it away, you can't package it back and push it down the way that it came out.
Oh,
So
that's an
once,
excellent illustration.
yeah, you know, and it just came to me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These, the creative side of me could no longer be encapsulated in a box.
Mm,
And so there was a time when the old self and the old ways had to part ways with what was vibing or what was brewing inside of me. Unfortunately and fortunately, I had I would say kind of a breakdown or a life shift where I wasn't happy in many areas and a lot of things were going dead. Not even necessarily literally, but anything that could die, fall apart, break, leave you, all of that just start falling apart. And I remember laying on the floor and looking up at the ceiling, and it was dark. And I
mm,
pressed my very elbows against the floor. And I kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And I realized in that moment, I was at literally and figuratively the lowest point and the lowest level I could be in my life. And so, even if all I did was lift my head, if all I did was stand up, it was forward movement.
mm.
That's why I'm a firm believer of your best life's in front of you. Don't look back. And that is why a lot of my images encapsulate people being pictured from behind. It looks
Mm,
like they're backwards, but they're really moving forward.
mm.
It's even biblical, whether you are a follower of the Bible or not. But there is a story of a lady in the Bible where she turned backwards and turned to salt. I
Oh,
think
Lot's
a lot of
wife.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people have this salt moment in their life, and we
Mm,
wonder why our forward progress is stifled. You know, sometimes it's kind of almost like it's one thing to be moving forward and get retested on something in your life that's happened. And then maybe you didn't pass, but you can recognize that this is the same lesson, different people.
hmm.
That's still forward progress. But if you literally turn behind after a lesson has been given and take it again, that's a salt moment in your life.
I love it. You know, I was talking to an older woman, and I believe that there's wisdom in gray headedness.
Absolutely.
I was talking to an older woman just last week, and she said, Tiffany, it's so important that when there's a lesson to be learned in life, you learn it, because if you don't, you're gonna have to go back and do it again, and it doesn't feel so
Absolutely.
good. So
Yeah.
in your moments, stand still and make sure you get it so
Mhm.
that you can move forward and not have to go through it again. That is powerful, Monica. Uh, there was something I wanted to make sure I call out for those that are listening, and it was something you said about the ceiling. I want to go back to that because we talk about shattering the glass ceiling, and I believe that what I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is you kept repeating you were on the rinse cycle of entering the room, the wrong room, and taking the seat at the wrong table
Mhm.
on the wrong floor. You
Mhm.
kept entering at the ceiling, and so you could never go anywhere. I wanted to come back to that because I believe that in shattering the glass ceiling, we as women in particular have to be brave enough and bold enough to take the next big audacious move instead of what feels safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What comes to mind as we talk, it's the whole what bumblebee wasp experiment. Put a bumblebee or wasp in a jar and close the lid. and they are going to bounce around and fly. They're going to keep hitting their head. They're going to kind of in their own way try to escape. But if you keep them in that jar long enough, you could literally stand there, take the lid off. You don't have to worry about them flying out or moving because they've adjusted their trajectory on just below what it will take for them to bump their head.
Mm.
And I've actually seen this. It's kind of like social conditioning where you start to believe the hype that you can be as high or receive as much money as what they tell you versus what would happen if I flew outside this jar? What's in the next jar? Or what's in the next big thing? And people don't really care for people in their structured situations that understand that the lid of the jar can come up and they can fly out at any time.
Mm.
Now, I think that really post the pandemic, a lot of people learned that their jar didn't have a ceiling, or people got creative within the ceiling and found a crack and figured out a way to learn because entrepreneurship and side hustles, or if you will, increased because people had to figure out a way with everything being shut down.
That's
But
true.
if you had a foresight, but if you were already creative and working towards your own, I guess, goals, you would realize that there's only two jobs. It's either you're working to make someone else's dream happen, or people are working for you to support yours.
Love it.
So
I
you're either the
love it.
dream supporter or the dream caster, so to speak,
I
in
love
in
it.
your in your story.
There is something else too, Monica, I wanted to acknowledge in your story. And that was, this really resonated with me, that you took a moment to reinvest in yourself through continued learning. Now, I'm not trying to say that everybody needs to run out and get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need a certification or an executive mastermind group or a certificate. Or maybe there's just a book you need to read to make a shift. But the point is, investing in ourselves into lifelong learning was something that you shared with us that really propelled you forward. And I wanted to just call that out to those who are listening, that if we want to be able to move forward as women, we can't operate tomorrow on what we learned yesterday. Right. We have to continue to reinvest in our repository of learning. And that comes both from experience and from the paper books that you pick up and read, not just Google. So anyway, just wanted to call that out. But I want to shift gears for a moment if we could. And could you mentioned a couple pivotal moments, but could you share with us maybe a pivotal moment that really changed your career trajectory? Was it the moment that you felt like you were the bee and the wasp, or was there something else that happened?
Oh, you want to know the truth that happened? Because when I first started painting in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like a shame thing. I wasn't in therapy or anything at that point, but for whatever reason, before I even knew the term and talked to my therapist friends, I was using my art as a coping mechanism.
Mm.
So the art brushes and the paint, and I would paint how I was feeling, but I would never paint it in a negative way. So here's the thing, and I don't mind because I'm a full supporter of mental health. My mother is mentally disabled with bipolar, schizophrenia, manic, and has been that way the majority of my life.
Mm.
And there was a part at times when I felt ashamed,
Mm.
and it would didn't want people to know that was my mother, but in for whatever reason that was her truth, and I never realized how much I would pull from that strength later, because even knowing she had a disorder, I always seen her as a queen, goddess, and an angel, and she was
Wow.
my best friend. So I painted a picture called Queen Lisa when
Mm.
I it was one of my first pieces, and so when I painted that, I was missing her, but
Mm.
I also honored her in how I seen her, but now how the world portrays her.
Mm.
We're like goddess warriors, because I feel that we're feel strong and courageous just like warriors. But I wasn't in my warrior life spirit or time when I was going through my darkest hours. See, life is you only can take life a couple ways. You can take it for what it is and believe that that's all it's ever going to be, or you could take it as a starting point or a lesson for what you don't want and do the opposite. Okay. You know, I believe in you either gonna barbecue or mildew. So you can succumb to your circumstances and say this is what it is, or you can make something out of it. And that is what my art was all about. And so when I would paint, it I said all the things with my brushes that I wish somebody would have told me. So my
Mm.
art is essentially my love notes to healing.
Wow.
And it still is to this day.
I love it. I want to take a moment to and celebrate with you your courage, Monica. I believe that many people through the pandemic, I think we became a little more people became a little more honest and transparent with mental health challenges. It became more obvious that people were struggling and people felt safe talking about it. If I feel like the pandemic gave people license to share their story and share their journey that they've always maybe like you but have had some shame about it. So I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that many of our listeners, not just you and many of people that we probably have on the show and will have, know someone, have been that someone, are that someone that has struggled or is struggling, and how important it is for us to harness humanity in our work together. So the reason why, Monica, one of my missions for Virtual Partner is to reinvigorate humanity in the workplace, where we don't look at the human condition, which can be frail because we're prone to illness, but we don't look at that as weak, that we embrace the differences and where people are and find a way to help them thrive in spite of the human condition, where we look at humility as a strength and honesty as a superpower. So, thank you so much for just talking a moment about the challenges that many of us, if you have people in your family that struggle with mental health challenges. My niece is a clinical psychologist, and she became a clinical psychologist because someone else in our family suffered when she was little. And she grew up and said, I want to be able to help people that have that same problem. So thank you so much for shining a light on that today. And to look at your mother as both the queen, a goddess, and an angel, because all mothers, regardless of their struggle, most of us would agree that that's what our mother is for us. So thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, I believe that although we're talking about your role as an artist and a creative person, I think we called attention, Monica, to the fact that you have an MBA, that you are an entrepreneur, you are the CEO of McGee's, and it's not just the practical piece of painting. There's the business side, the marketing side, and you're doing all of the things. So how do you balance sort of that with the creative piece with the entrepreneurial piece, that leader piece?
That is the best question, probably, of any question you will ask me for today. So the short answer is a work in progress. But but the bigger answer is one of the things that I would thank God for. I feel like I'm the closest to even brained as you can get. So
Mm,
that kind of artsy and English, or that kind of more like creative side. But then I also have like the math and science, the numbers, the business. And so there are times when they try to meet in the middle and it's an iron clash and nothing gets done, right?
hmm
Because it's like, wait, I really need to do some art, but wait, I probably need to go run these numbers, but wait, I probably need to prepare, figure out what I'm going to need supply wise. But wait a minute, I'm feeling really inspired and I want to go on a day binge of just creating and sitting, meditating, and listen to music so I can catch a vibe. Uh, there is and the thing is that you can schedule business stuff or say, I'm going to work this block of time to knock out this. But sometimes being so businessy, like I guess very business oriented, it can kind of kill the creative vibe. So
mm,
one thing that I did for the business side to kind of help me when they clash is I have originals and stuff that have sold out of galleries and things that I have had auctioned and all that stuff. But I said, okay, if I want to be an artist, but I want this to be in business, I need to have a product. So the biggest product of my whole thing is myself,
mm.
selling myself, because you're going to buy from me because of who I am and what I'm pushing out before you'll just buy a piece of my work, you know? because I do my print art as well. So I've turned that one piece that sat in a gallery into a print, into a greeting card,
Mm.
into in some cases t-shirts, and I'm looking to expand to put it on different apparel and come out with lines. So the business part says it's great to be creative, but how can we package this into a product? And then also, when we package it into a product, what type of spreads are we looking for? And then, if we do all of that and we come up with a price tag, does this financially make sense for you? And does it make sense to the consumer selling it from a small business standpoint? And if you really love it and you want to get it to the masses, what does a wholesale deal look like? So you see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of that's one of the hang up with my wonderful artists. Some people are super creative, but when it comes to the business part, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about pricing. They don't want to deal with that, because putting a price on something that you created and you get pushback, and maybe not in the way that you would appreciate, can be very damaging to the ego. But if
Mm.
you look at it as a business standpoint, if I paid $1.25 for a loaf of bread in May, but now May 2 years later, you want that same piece of bread where you've done nothing different to innovate it. There's no new nutrients or anything, but you want $5 for it. There's a disparity there, and I'm gonna need some kind of understanding about that. And I'm talking about when you know that it was appropriately priced. So we're not going to even get into the conversation about inflation and all that, but understand, as a business owner, okay, if the cost of what you're doing goes up, so should your prices, okay?
I love it. And you are unapologetic about
Absolutely.
quantifying your value. And Monica, one of the things I think is so amazing about what you just shared, whether you are in the workplace or whether you're an entrepreneur, if you have a technical competency, a skill that is the reason they brought you there, never forget you must align and continue to quantify your value. You must align the value you bring to the table with that which resonates with the mission vision of the organization and the bottom line, the dollars and cents. You need to be able to, from a budgetary and a monetary perspective, be able to connect those dots. If we're going to thrive as women and lead, it can't just be the tactical piece. So you're not just the creative person, Monica, but obviously you are the CEO. You are running, you have the run a show from an operational perspective, from a marketing perspective, and of course from a tactical perspective. So just wanted to pay that forward to those who are listening. If you want to shatter the glass ceiling, you got to be able to do what Monica just talked about, and that is figuring out what the product is. And if you're inside the company, as she mentioned, she is her product, her brand, develop your brand as well inside your organization.
Miss
So,
Tiffany, I just want to add one other thing with that.
yes.
The breaking down, like, I mean, this obviously can be a training, but here's just some free game. Before
Okay.
you throw a price tag on something, you need to consider the raw cost of every single thing you do. So if I do a picture and let's say I want to sell it for $2,000, and you're like, whoa, that's a lot. You have to factor in, how much do you want to get paid per hour? So yeah, maybe you're not in a corporate setting, but you still should have some sort of salary or hourly, or some sort of package that
You need a rate.
you need a rate, right? And I understand rates can be different for different reasons and different times, but even with that, have a sliding scale, okay? Raw cost. So if I have to buy 3 tubes of paint and I'm doing something high end, I just spent, what did I spend? Close to $20, and I only bought 2 colors of pigment. Two, two for what I use, not to mention the brushes. Do you see what I'm saying? So if my thing has 25 colors in it, and I just told you it cost me $20 for 2 tubes, based on the fact, like, I'm more of a premiere artist now, so I'm not necessarily using the cheap stuff anymore.
Mm.
So you have to think of how much I put into that before I put it out to market. Other people may not understand that, but that is not necessarily your problem. And don't over explain your prices or your process. They either want it or they don't. Do you see, was it Rolls Royce or any of those higher end cars? They don't even have commercials. You either want this or you don't. You find them, they don't have to find you to ask you to buy this vehicle, right? So you don't have to chase people down and convince them. but make sure you understand the metrics of what it takes to put together that product or service before you put it out. Because the worst thing, and I've made that mistake, is pricing something at a deficit to yourself. I'd rather give you something as a gift and write it off as a cost of doing business than to sell you something for product and undersell myself and what I put into it. So
That is excellent advice. Not undervaluing yourself, feeling confident and strong about your worth is so important. Monica, what you said, I think applies in the workplace and applies for entrepreneurs, right? Recently, I had the privilege of coaching a woman. She's in the business of transformation. So that's her role in an organization. And she was going for a new role. And she she said, Tiffany, I want to make X number of dollars. And she went in, we coached her, prepared her. She went in and asked for X number of dollars. It was like $30,000 more than what they had said they were going to pay. And by the end of the day, she got what she asked for. And I think it's so important when you value yourself, whether it's art, whether you are going for another job, whether you are in a role and you want that next big thing, you need to stand up, stand strong and tall, and stand behind your value. Quantify your value. And like Monica said, know the raw cost and know what your markup is supposed to be if you're on an entrepreneurial side. Excellent advice, Monica. Ah, I just love it. I could just go on and on and on, but I have to ask you, I got to shift. Were you going to say something, Monica? I want to shift. Now, you know that She Rises is all about shortening the leadership trajectory for women from the front door to the top floor to less than
mm,
10 years, right? So, enabling the next generation to learn from those that came before them to shorten that cycle. So, that's my ambitious goal. I'm curious, what's your take on one way you can think that we can do this, shorten the trajectory, the leadership runway?
to stop reinventing the wheel and
Mm.
stop believing you're an island on your own. So, yes, we love to be the first, or we respect the first of everything. But you're not the first woman in leadership at this point. Hello. And that's not anything to be upset about. That should be celebrated. You're not the first one to have a large business and then have a large failure. You're not the one who put something out there and someone saw something in you and then voila, you're this big person. And you're also not the first woman in a Fortune 500 company that you got off the ground, no matter how many CEOs or men are in front of it, right? So, with that being said, stop trying to be on an island by yourself. The mentorship is the best thing that I ever could have asked for in my life. Because lately, especially in this new year, I've been assessing the top 5 people that I spend time with, that I talk to, that I look up to, that I go to the movies with or do anything. And I'm thinking, are they there for comfort? Are they there for climbing? Are they there as a distraction? And you need to be clear on that, because where you may need to go, the people that are around you may not be the people that are going to assist you with getting there. So that's why mentorship is important. So it's not to say don't have your family and friends and loved ones you're around. We're not necessarily kicking people out, but you need to align yourself with the people who are going to the places you need to go, even if they're not in the same industry. Okay.
I love it. That's ex. Sorry, Monica, didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, I'm just saying that for me, like, I haven't found this particular artist that I look up to in business, but I do have a sorority sister that works for a Fortune 500 company that's a six-figure plus earner, but also does art. And said to me one day, she said, Monica, you do great stuff, but sometimes you're going to set up at events with your original stuff or with some of your more expensive pieces, and that's just not going to be the audience or what they're looking for. But don't let anybody leave your table without getting something. She says, I have stuff that can be up at this rate, but I might literally have some gum at the table that they want to have because they're walking around with people. Or I may have a pair of earrings. So the thing is, she showed me that, I guess you say, versatility and kind of being able to appease a wider range of people with your product was the way that changed my business. Because there were people on some days that my lower end or my more creative, more girly products would sell and my art would sit. And so I could have been, oh, I'm an artist, this is my work, this is all I had. But she's not only a friend, she's not only in my top 5, but she served as a sister mentor.
I
Okay.
love it.
So it changed, it probably knocked off at least a year, year and a half of me figuring out, hey, Monica, diversify your product. So there are national women leadership things you can do. You can get with Tiffany-O. She is amazing. She served as my mentor before. There are official things like I'm part of BC Women Achieve, which is something in my area where there's, I think, a total of 52 business women, which half of them are mentees. And you get mentored by women who are working in these industries. It may not be mine, but for me, my mentorship levels at this point aren't you telling me how to do something. It's me identifying my strengths and weaknesses, doing a personal SWOT test on myself, and people helping me with opportunities and helping me limit my threats right now.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah.
You were talking about the mentorship. I think that's ringing loud and clear for those of you dial, if you're tuning in. Another big tip is leveraging mentorship, whether you hire a coach, identify someone in your organization, if there's someone in your past life that's doing the thing, anybody that's doing what you're doing but better might be great mentors for you instead of feeling that you are competing with them.
Right.
Um, Collaborate. But Monica, talk to us a little bit about the mentoring program that you're in right now, where 25 people got selected and you were one of them in this VP mentorship program.
Yeah, so it's really, I believe that there's, it got reduced to about 10 or 12 of us, and most of them are like mentors that we're being matched with or coached with. But there were, I think, somewhere up to like 150 applicants,
Hmm.
and they are looking for women who are at a certain space or certain industries and helping pair them with people that they feel can take them to the next level. This is when we talk about reducing that 10-year mark of leadership for women to get to the top. This is exactly what this is designed for. And they're specifically targeting women who are in entrepreneurship. Now, a lot of these women have careers and they're in the Fortune 500 companies, or they're working in the spaces of finance or HR, or they're builders, developers. And so the mindset of helping an entrepreneur see that side of the business, even if it's not in your industry, that can change how you look at things. And so I feel like this program is beneficial for me because, like I said, I have a foundation, but think of a house that has a foundation. It's 100 years old. What are some of the challenges that can happen with a house? The foundation literally could be shifting. There could be some mold or whatever. So you kind of get, and what I mean by mold, if we're looking at it from a metaphorical standpoint, sometimes we get so set in our foundation and our ways, we forget that, hey, you have to keep up with these things. You have to keep up with the repairs. You need inspectors, if you will, to come in. I feel there are some cracks in my foundation, so I'm finding people who have the cement and they have the insulation to help my foundation be whole again.
Mm,
So,
that is powerful. I love the level of self-awareness you have. And as leaders and as women who want to grow into leadership roles, that level of self-awareness, authenticity, honesty, and humility really needs to be there. I want to shift a little bit as we start to bring our call down. I've had so much fun with you today, Monica. You and I could go on, and I'm waiting for more of your one-liners. I've gotten so many of them written down here, a lot of great lessons. But I want to take a global perspective for a moment. We know in the United States, a lot of companies are opting out, tapping out of DE&I
mhm.
initiatives, and other organizations are doubling down on it. So, as we think about the need for inclusivity in diverse workplaces, as a visual artist, how do you sort of see the arts contributing to more inclusive and diverse workspaces or
Well,
workplaces?
I love that. Well, fun fact, to add to all the other stuff I do, I actually have a certification in diversity, equity, inclusion in the
That's why
workplace.
I brought the conversation here.
And one of the biggest things that I feel like why diversity, equity, inclusion is important is because the cultural and socio-economical barriers oftentimes has two different people looking at each other like, I don't even know how to say it, almost like they came from two different islands and they don't speak the same language. When there are DEI for me is being able to find a common ground or goal in order to start from there to build out to gain a better understanding of one another and how you see things. There was a, I did a, and I this isn't a big segue, but I think it's important that I share this. I did a DEI, I did a presentation, and I did it for one of the businesses that I was hosting it for. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of a free time. There's no silly questions. Just ask. And the lady said, why is it that when I ask to touch your hair or like women of color's hair, why are they so offended? And so I said, again, I told you this was a safe space. So I'm going to answer your question. I said, your hair is so pretty. She was like, thank you. I said, could I touch it? She was like, why would you want to do that? I said, exactly. You don't want your hair touched. I don't want mine's touched, whether it's the one I grew out of my scalp or the one I purchased, right? So we are not puppies. And she felt, I could tell that she went inside and that hurt her. But I said, imagine how the person feels because of that. And so not only should we have proper workplace etiquette, but the fact that you were terrified to answer the question and then felt bad about the response. We have to cut that down by normalizing having conversations about our differences.
Oh, wow. I love it. That is so true. People are so uncomfortable, whether you're a person of color, being uncomfortable beginning the conversation, or if you have been on the receiving end of microaggressions, being afraid of the fallout for educating your colleague that the dialogue they just engaged in is a microaggression and it would be perceived by most people on the receiving end that way.
Mhm.
I agree. Normalizing culturally inside of organizations, normalizing the conversation so we all get better, whether it's about technical competency or cultural competencies. We talk about the technical piece in the workplace, right? If you're a
Mhm.
draft or an architect or a project manager and you're not up to snuff, people call you on that. Well, cultural competency is the other piece, right? And if we want to bring humanity in the workplace and reinvigorate that, we have to create the safe space, both from the person learning and growing, and then the person being brave enough to help learners grow. So anyway, thank you for that call out. That's awesome. So one of the ways that art can do that, how does art bridge the gap, and some of that, or is
Well,
it?
no, I believe it. Thank you. That was a great question. So when I first started painting, again, I told you it was something private and just for me. And shout out to my cousin who went in and found all these paintings in my third room in the dark clothes. And she was like, why don't you hang up all these paintings? Where'd you buy these from? I said, oh no, I painted those. And she was shocked. She's like, why don't we put them out? So put them out in the world and the world received them. And that's awesome. But one of the things I never wanted to do was to get pigeonholed in my industry because I was a Black woman who
Mm,
plated Black or cultural images and then have a Black audience. Because
mm,
when I painted my stuff, I was clear that while this may be through my lens and this is what I look like and the people that I know of or in my community look like, it's bigger than color. The
mm,
messages are about love, about prosperity, about spiritual enlightenment, about the loss of a loved one, about
mm,
experiencing love, needing general motivation. And that's something, whether you're brown, black, yellow, orange, green, whatever, we all can attest to. So I feel like art is one of the most universal ways to get a message across without worrying about color barriers, because I actually have customers internationally, 16 different countries, so to speak. And a majority of my customer base don't look like me. And I think at first it was shocking, but at the end of the day, when someone could connect with you and your message for whatever reason, that's who I made it for. That's my audience. So art to me, it was a lady. I met a lady from Mexico. She didn't know my name. She couldn't have a conversation. Her daughter was there to translate, but she held up one of my pictures and she cried.
Mm.
And it was the one of the warriors, and she felt the energy of the warrior spirit, and she needed that because she was going through something personal. So to me, my personal mission and everything I do, no matter what it looks like, I want them to be able to experience it. That's why I call myself the MoKasso experience. It's more than just something to do, because there are people who probably paint and can create far better than me, but have they taken the time to tap into their story and one that can universally touch others? That's
Oh,
what I feel the mission of a responsible artist does. They see beyond their own lens and look to heal and to assist other people who may purchase their work.
I love it. So you imagine in the workplace, art is the link between human beings.
Mhm.
It can reinvigorate humanity in the workplace because it is a representation of the human emotion, regardless of whether it's a cultural piece or some other kind of piece. I love it. Thank you very much. Okay, rapid fire, rapid fire. This is
All
how we do our roundup, Monica. I
right.
loved our conversation and all the one-liners. Reflections of your 25-year-old self.
Woo,
Reflecting back, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
woo, Jesus. Don't take yourself so serious. Learn, learn by living,
Mm,
and not just by what you're doing today.
wow, love it. Rapid fire. Who is your superhero? Mine is Wonder Woman because, she's the epitome of balance. She wields incredible strength. She's got the combat skills, yet she's compassionate and driven by justice. Who's your superhero?
Oh, this is actual like superhero like Marvel, or who is it?
Yeah, who's your superhero? People come on the show and they tell me, oh, it's my mom, my grandma. If that's your superhero, great. But is there someone that you can think of, your alter ego, that's a superhero character?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Ooh,
You know what? I'm gonna say Catwoman,
okay.
because the thing is that she's pretty and she's sexy, but she's always underrated, and she's slick just like a cat. But remember, who was in her corner or that liked her? Wasn't she like Batman's little, yeah? So behind every strong and powerful man is an amazing woman. It doesn't even mean they have to like be together in a marriage, but just know that there is some story being built and there's an amazing woman in the midst. So
Well,
Catwoman.
which is why men need to get behind the women in the workplace.
Ooh,
Sponsor a woman. Yes.
sponsor this cat lady.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. And last one, what book are you currently reading or would you recommend our listeners read or consider?
Ooh, the one I'm reading right now has a bad word in the title, so we won't do that. But I'm looking right here. You know what I suggest? Reading The Shack.
The Shack. Okay.
Read the book called The Shack. Another one, The Celestine Prophecy. Another one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, or something like that. And then
Mhm.
there's a book I have called Five. And it's actually a book, but it's one you actually can write in, and it's about like a 5-year plan. And depending on where you are in your life, that book, I open it at different times over the years, and some of the questions are hard, and some of them, because I've done the work, I can blow through them. But
Mm.
don't be scared. It's literally called Five, and all it is asking you questions about where you see yourself in 5 years. So maybe let's say five.
Oh, excellent. Love
Literally
it. Thank you so much. Well, everyone, as we wrap up today's enlightening conversation, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Monica McGee for sharing her invaluable insights and experiences with us. Monica, your journey and dedication to inspiring others through art is truly inspiring. At Virtual Partner, we're committed to transforming workplaces into hubs of innovation and inclusivity. We're on a mission to gather insights and stories from women leaders like Monica, but around the world as well, to better understand challenges and triumphs that you face. So, your voice matters, and we'd love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. Before we go, if you're inspired by what you have heard today, and you want to join in our mission to empower other women leaders, don't forget to participate in the She Rises survey. It can be found on my website, Virtual Partner, no S, virtualpartner.biz, How She Rises. Virtualpartner.biz/How She Rises. Now, participating in this survey will help to shape the future discussions on this show and initiatives aimed at supporting women. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Rises. Stay inspired, stay empowered, keep rising. Until next time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of She Rises. I hope you found inspiration, insight, and the motivation to keep pushing forward on your leadership journey. Remember, success isn't about reaching the top. It's about lifting others as you rise. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other powerhouse women in your life. Follow me, Tiffany-O, and Virtual Partner for more resources on leadership, organizational growth, and creating workplaces where humanity thrives. Until next time, keep rising, keep leading, and keep making an impact.